Hello, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host of the station. Folks, I am so passionate, as you know, to inform my audience about resources that are important. And even if the guest is not in your area, it's a topic that should be discussed and that I feel the audience needs to be aware about. And I'm going to tell you about my guest. I'm so excited always to interview, but especially someone from my home state. So there's two Jersey girls here. And we'll have a great conversation. With me today is Ebony Turner Bailey, MS, CC, SLP. She is a New Jersey-based licensed speech language pathologist and founder of Prime Speech Solutions. She is a graduate of Teachers College of Columbia University. Ebony specializes in developmental speech and language delays, autism, related communication challenges, social group therapy for autistic children, neurological speech disorders, voice therapy for adults, and folks, I'm going for that myself. I just started, including those with Parkinson's disease. Ebony has traveled to Ghana and Haiti, helping educators and caregivers support children with communication disorders. Ebony is a member of ASHA and CORSPAN. She is a recipient of the ACE Continuing Education Award. And I am so happy to have Ebony with me. Welcome, Ebony Turner Bailey.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine, I'll have to say.
Well, I am excited. You'll have to tell me. What does ASHA stand for, and the other one, CORSPAN?
Okay, so ASHA is the first one, and this is a national organization for speech-language pathologists. We become members, and this just ensures that we are really certified to be working with and helping individuals. It ensures that we are ethically capable of doing our job and providing you with evidence-based and science-based strategies to ensure that we are doing our work professionally and helping those in need. And CORSPAN is actually an adult organization, and this is really the professional, helping those individuals in the professional setting. And, you know, that helps individuals who are having difficulty in the corporate world, just so to speak. So individuals who have public speaking challenges or just advancement issues at work and challenges where they're not able to advance in their areas, and it's usually because of how they're able to communicate, and that might be holding them back. So we work with them to help them out.
I tell you, Ebony, I'm fascinated with speech therapy because it just encompasses such a large, wide variety of help for people from children to adults. And I know when I took my son for speech because he had a language delay, people were like, oh, speech at 18 months old? And he learned to use his hands for signs until he was able to verbalize. But it's, you know, and I've worked a lot with him with the speech and did a lot of work. And now I'm going for speech because of my cough that my audience has heard. But I've had this cough for 11 years. And it's amazing. Like I just started last week, and one session has really helped me tremendously. And I just, people, they think, oh, well, every child is different. Every child develops differently. I think it was Albert Einstein did a talk till he was 4 years old or older. When should a parent be concerned that their child is not communicating?
Betsy, this is something that really can be very early in a child's development. So when your child is around 6 months-ish, maybe even a little bit before, you want to start looking for signs. So you're looking for if your child is really looking back at you when you make a noise, when you talk to them, they're following your voice, trying to find you based on where your voice is. And so that is the earliest sign that there's something that may be a problem and you might need to seek additional help. What I want to say is that speech is not just the words that come out of our mouth. Speech encompasses, speech encompasses, that I gaze back and forth. You have to be able to hear or, react to the environment around you. And if they're able to speak, also communicate or using gestures to communicate. So there are multiple things that help us when we communicate. And that gaze is important for a conversation, of course. And when you're talking to your infant, your little one, and they're not quite following along, even at that age, that's one of the first signs. When you talk to them or babble to kind of engage them and to get them to do it back with you, your expectation is that they do it back. And if they do, then they've begun in the early stages of a conversation, even at that baby level. So you really want to look for those signs early on. As they get older and they begin to say words, or they're at the age where they should, this is around 1 year old, you want it even earlier for some, right? Some children start to say little things like mama, dada around like 9 months-ish, but really clear, distinct words around 1. And once a child starts to say those things, you want them to be able to request objects or foods that they really like, that that they like. So they might say milk or bop or bottle, or try to say the word bottle, or they might even say their favorite toy. And for many, that is a ball at that age. So you're looking for them to start using these words and identifying them with familiar objects. If your child is not saying the name of a favorite something or a parent, mama, dada, then these are also signs that you might need to speak in depth with your child's pediatrician. You also want to look for your child's ability to interact, not only with the toys. Are they playing with typical toys, or are they playing with things like the light switch? Are they climbing on furniture? Or are they, especially around the age of 2, children really get to the point where they know that's not what we're supposed to do. And so once they reach that age and beyond and they're still climbing on furniture, that is a true sign that something else is going on there. You also want to see how they're engaging with you as you continue on. Do they only respond to you? As they get older, are they looking you in your face or near your face, or do they look past you? They're off at objects. All of these things are signs that you really need to seek additional help.
I am so glad that you mentioned that, because now I'm going to jump into the autistic spectrum. or I should say first a mother's intuition. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. I can tell our audience, mother's intuition, if you feel that something is amiss in your child and the pediatrician says, oh, no, they're okay, seek another opinion. Seek as many opinions as it takes for you to get peace of mind. Because I knew with my son something was amiss when he was 6 months old. He don't look like he was all there. And that's not saying that because I didn't love him. I was seeing something that was obvious to me, not to anyone else, but it was obvious to me. And I'm glad I took him for another opinion. And I really want to encourage the audience, if a pediatrician blames you, the parent, and says it's your fault or the child is lazy, get another one. Because that was told to me. And, Josh was not lazy. He had a problem. He had, and it's really, and at that time, Josh is 41 now, so you're talking in the mid-'80s. They didn't know back then what they know now.
Absolutely.
So, and with autism, and Josh is on the spectrum, they do have trouble communicating. They may not look at you. To this day, I have to tell him, pay attention when I'm talking to you, because he'll be there talking to himself. But that's how he is. So I think it's really important for parents to really, notice if their child is looking at them. Do they have they look like they're not there? Because you could see it, I feel. I'm not a therapist by any means. I'm just a parent with experience, that you could see it in their eyes. Just like you said.
I agree. It's very unfortunate that you were told that. Definitely parents, if a doctor doesn't see anything wrong, that is a telltale sign that you might need to get a different pediatrician. Definitely a second opinion, but it might be that time to find another one, because I do believe that parents are able to notice that there's something wrong. And if you have a little bit of an itch or that little inkling, you need to find someone who is able or willing to look further into it, because usually that itch means there is something there that's not quite right. And sometimes it doesn't always play out in every environment for your child. Sometimes parents are very unaware, and when the teacher might call and say that there is something wrong, they don't see it because the environments are different for your child. In a school setting, it looks a lot different. Your child is put under challenging situations, placed with other individuals, and it may play out differently for them. And so that's important.
Yes.
So looking for a pediatrician to confirm how you feel, but you can always look for a developmental pediatrician if the concerns grow and you would like your child evaluated to determine if there is a possible diagnosis of autism or anything else. And you can even speak to a speech-language pathologist as well. Although we do not diagnose, we do work with children who demonstrate these characteristics, and we can say, hey, you might need a further evaluation. This is what I'm seeing. But a lot of times, Betsy, I have to be very real with you. It's getting through to parents, because hearing that can be very jarring for a lot of parents.
Yes.
And although hearing it can be jarring, the sooner you get your child help, the better it is for your child.
Absolutely.
The possibilities are endless. And you want to build – some parents do have a great relationship with their child, even when they're nonverbal. But you want to fight for your child so that your child has all of the possibilities. And that grows when your child has the capacity to communicate with the world around them as well. And so you not only want your child to be happy, but you want your child to be able to survive and engage with the world that they are physically in. And so, I really want parents to reach out to get some help if they do see some of those signs as early as they can.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad that you said that, Ebony, because I feel the same way. I worked in a preschool, the teacher's aide. I know a lot of parents, would get upset if the director said, we think your child needs to be evaluated by your school district's child study team, pediatrician. And you know what? I take the bull by the horns. My child has a difficulty. What are we going to do? What's the plan? Where do I have to go? And I don't, back in the 80s, and there just wasn't the support. Yeah. And people, really were not supportive of me taking Josh for early intervention or to a neurologist. But I'm like, you know what? I knew something. I didn't get a diagnosis, true diagnosis, till he was 13 because they didn't know, of course, when he was younger, what they knew, years later.
Right.
But, you want to check out, you want to see, does your child have a hearing problem? And that's why he or she is not talking. Excuse me. And that should be ruled out. And I know, Ebony, that parents might think, oh, I'm being overprotective. Oh, I don't want the pediatrician to think I'm being overprotective, or that, they might look at me as I'm not a smart parent. You know what? Don't worry about that. You ask the questions. You have to advocate for your child. I mean, I had to be an advocate, and I am a force.
Yes.
That's for sure. But you really do. You have to, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you work in schools, Ebony, also, along with your business?
So I currently don't work in the school system, but I do work in some schools to provide therapy services, mostly private or daycares. So some parents cannot make it to me after the workday, and so if their facility is approving of that, as well as the parent doesn't mind the services being provided in the child's school setting, I do offer those services there as well.
Oh, that's good to know. I know that when my son went to school, there was a speech therapist that worked in the school system, but then they would outsource like occupational therapists and physical therapists.
Yes. So I did work in the school system. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I did, but now not.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Social group therapy. I didn't know that speech therapists did that. My son went to a social skills group, which I have to tell you this funny story, folks, because it is funny. And I like to share stories when I do my show. Excuse me. But it was with a psychologist, and they were in their early teens. It was all boys. But the thing with my son, and everyone's different, he could learn it there in that group, but he had trouble transferring that into a school environment. And it was very interesting with each child, what their circumstances were. But I just found it, that was very interesting. But I think social skills group is, I didn't know that speech therapists do that. So as a speech pathologist, how do you conduct your social group therapy? Because I'm for autistic children, I'm really interested about that versus like a psychologist.
Okay, so I've run a few small social groups, and they've been with younger age, like from 4 to 6, and then older children like 11, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11 years old. And so those groups, we engage in any type of activity, arts and crafts. We work together. We draw pictures. Sometimes we are doing collaborative work where we are drawing a picture together and each person gets an opportunity to draw a shape. And then together we look at it. We talk about what we created as a group. We look at, oh, hey, they didn't quite, connect the dots or, draw to what all of us were thinking about, So really highlighting some of the things that some children may not even have on their radar. Some children in some social groups, they needed help advocating for themselves. Other members were a little bit more bold and saying things about their peers, while some children have a hard time hearing not so, as anyone would, right, not so great information about themselves, but then also helping that student understand that you can't always say everything that comes to your mind.
Yeah.
Helping, which is hard, but that's
true.
Yes, and that was definitely for the older group. They were way more vocal and expressive, but even staying on topic, that's something that definitely, as my older groups, they really have a hard time struggling with if they are in social group therapy. So, maintaining the topic and not changing it as soon as it's your turn to speak, but saying something about it, passing it on, and maybe adding to it and then changing it, or, segueing into something else versus just changing it as soon as you get a chance to speak. Understanding that sometimes social group is just getting a child to talk to another student, start a conversation, respond to somebody else that's not an adult, ask a kiddie question. And we really, as parents and adults around children, a lot of children, from what I've experienced working with on the spectrum, they prefer adult interaction more times because we will take time for a child, right? We will excuse a child when they do or don't do. We will pause for them. We will wait. We will allow them to make that mistake. But they often have difficulty engaging with their peers. And this might have been what was difficult for your son as well in the group, because in social group, you're guided to take turns and wait and all of those things that make it easy for you to practice. But when you get to school, it's a madhouse. Nobody's waiting necessarily. If they're typically developing children, they are, jumping in when they want to. They are talking over each other. They might be making fun of each other. And so that might be where your son had the challenge of transferring the skill. And that's how sometimes social group can look differently, because we are helping them to get to that level where they can do it. And when I'm in my social group, I really try to challenge them. So once they get the ability to talk to each other, I'll throw in something where I kind of talk over them to see how they handle it. And then we talk about how to, correct that, or how to make them feel more comfortable when something like that happens. So building them up for those scenarios is really how my social groups are focused, so that the children really can transfer this skill outside of the room.
Oh, that sounds great. Do you do speech pathologists, because I don't remember this from when my son was young, do they work with, so if I can pronounce it right, echolalia?
Yes.
The constant repeating drives me nuts.
Yes. Yes.
I'm honest, folks. What can I tell you?
Nothing. No, you are right. Echolalia. We do work with that. That does typically tend to show itself in those diagnosed with autism.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a developmental level of communication. So some children may look like this, where they don't speak at all. Then randomly they start repeating everything that they hear on a video or something like that, or maybe a person in their life said something and it was, really kind of fun or set in a way, and so now that child repeats that too. And so it's a form of communication, right? But it's just, it's a great thing if your child wasn't speaking and they're doing that, because now that's like a building block to that next level. But also, it's a great way because now your child, you can actually start to teach them some things. And if you're playing with your voice, if you're, presenting it in a different way, you might get them to repeat that and make it more functional for them to use in the world around them. So, echolalia can be seen as, oh, goodness, they're repeating this again. But if you're infusing some contextual things, some things that mean something to this child's world and maybe even the parent's world as well, they can start to use it in a more functional way. And once you get your child to repeat some of those more functional terms, it grows. And so a child can get out of using echolalic terms and echolalic language and grow into actual communication. And so really it's like a developmental step right before, communicating contextually for their world around them.
That speech just really fascinates me. The speech, along with, the various therapies that go with it. When and this is the thing. I'll go back to being on the spectrum, and I can only speak from my experience with my son. A lot of children like to have the same things repeated. It's comforting to them. And so my son will repeat the same things over and over in the course of a day. That's fine at home, but in a social situation, it's not so great. Matter of fact, I'll share this story. I had to ask him to leave a group on Facebook because he doesn't know when to stop. And he would keep repeating something over and over, and the people were making fun of him and calling him names. I said, why would you even want to belong to that group? These people are disgusting. I mean, really low-down people making fun of him. And he didn't even, the sad thing is that, he doesn't even realize it. And that's really, for me as a parent, that is heartbreaking.
Crushing.
And I was like,
yes,
it's crushing. Exactly. I said, don't you realize they're calling you names?
Yeah.
And so why would you want to go back for more? And I only knew that because somebody had contacted me. And, it just, and that's part of, the disability and the social cues also mixed in with the speech. So it gets very complicated.
It does. And I want to go back on a phrase that I used earlier was getting on I do things to get on their radar, because it might not be on their radar. So that what that really means is that a child is not aware when it's not on their radar. And so that's why social skills groups are so amazing, because they are a safe place for your child to practice the skills that are challenging for them, and to build awareness, because it's not going to be just one visit where they build that awareness, but it'll be many. And as the children today have access to social media, they have even more challenges than ever to overcome with being social, because, back in your son's day, it was really just face-to-face interactions and maybe phone conversations. But now we have to add that social media component that changes things, because no longer is it a formality that you might use when you say in a face-to-face conversation. It's a different way of communicating, and it's something that they have to understand how to navigate both, almost like both worlds, right? So that they can be effective, because sending an email is way different from, calling someone on a phone and engaging, or even in person, and definitely in person, because they have to give some kind of eye gaze so people don't think something is wrong. Human touch, shake hands, and where the children today might be more comfortable on social media, there are some things that they still can learn and incorporate to make their visibility online less uncomfortable, or make sure that they understand what it is that they are experiencing, and if someone is making fun of them or anything, outcasting them or whatever.
That's true, because social media, there were regular cell phones back then in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's, it's difficult, but I am happy to say that Josh is like their work, very sociable, and so I'm, happy about that. I have to ask you, Ebony, because I am curious, how did you become interested in speech therapy? Was there any particular reason why you chose that field?
You know what? I actually went to school previously for web design, and I got out of that and kind of just transitioned, and I was actually in a finding myself phase, and my mom actually suggested I observe these speech therapists and working with children. This was in the Board of Education, and I observed a few sessions, and I fell in love. And Betsy, if I could tell you, growing up, I always wanted to be a doctor. I'm not a doctor right now, but I work technically in the medical setting. But, I've always had that passion for helping others, and so that really clicked for me, and it really felt natural. The concepts that were learned while in school when we had to do our practicum, which is, practicing what this job looks like, it really felt natural for me, and really came I would say pretty easy. It was just something that I really fell into and enjoy, more than enjoy. It's really like a passion for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. That makes such a difference too. When you, especially with children, when you take your child to a speech therapist, it's such a big difference when they care what they're doing and they have a passion. They really, you could tell. Well, I can anyway. And I had to talk about adults who take speech therapy. Now, I'll tell you, my audience knows that I have had this cough. I mean, I'm doing this show for 6 years. I've had this cough. I've had every test, took medicines, nothing. Finally, I'll tell you the story very quickly. Finally, my pulmonary doctor suggested my ear, nose, and throat doctor. My ear, nose, and throat doctor suggested speech therapy. And I'm like, really? Speech therapy will help with my cough? I mean, I said, well, I'm really interested in this. So I just started last week. Well, I went for an evaluation in December, and I started last week. And I tell you, Ebony, and I'll tell you, audience, there's a difference after one session. I'm doing exercises, and I'm amazed, Ebony, of how everything's connected with your body. I'm doing, breathing exercises, neck exercises, learning to swallow instead of cough. I mean, I've been coughing for probably 11 years, so it's a hard habit to break. And I guess I'm stunned. I did not know. And I tell people, I'm going for therapy to see about my cough. People are stunned to know about that.
Yes.
Do you do that therapy?
They don't draw the connection. So
right.
I do not. However, it was one of my areas of interest back when I was in school. And, it does, as we age and as we get stressed and as we, engage in the world around us, we're preoccupied. We're not paying 100% to ourselves while we're doing something else, because how could you?
Mm-hmm.
But as you age, there might be some muscle weakness and or things that happen in our environment that change how your muscles function and how completely you swallow. You have to do some exercises to build those muscles back up. And sometimes because of the way that we engage with the world around us, like I said, and we're preoccupied, we're not breathing effectively or efficiently. And so all of those things play a part in how our body responds and how we respond while swallowing and how our body takes in the air and does what we need to do. So, it's a lot of components that do affect us, and it could affect your swallowing.
Yes. I told the speech therapist, this came out during caregiving. I was caregiving for my husband. He was mid-journey with his Alzheimer's, and I started this coughing. So I truly believe, I was exposed to environmental things. I worked in Bath and Body Works, and they burned the oil. That could have done something. I don't know. Lived in New Jersey. You know how the air is here. Secondhand smoke. My dad smoked. I worked, before they banned smoking in places. I worked in a hospital. The nurses and doctors smoked. So you don't know what you're breathing in sometimes. And so I really found it very interesting. And, if it helped after one session, I'm looking forward to, continuing. Of course, I have to do my work, but I really want to stress, because if anyone's a caregiver and you're listening to me, take care of yourself.
Yes.
Definitely take care of yourself, because stress comes out in all different forms. It did say in your bio, do you do voice therapy for adults with Parkinson's?
So I did do that at one point in time, but currently I'm not working with adults medically. I'm only doing professional development type of work and accent reduction with adults at this time, but I do plan to get back into it.
Okay, so can I ask you a question about it, though? Because I'm curious.
Sure.
about the voice therapy with Parkinson's, because I know their muscles get rigid, so it affects their voice. Do they do exercises for that?
Yes. We work with them to do exercises to help get their voice to speak, to try to say the same things that they once said, and to get them to a volume, because sometimes that's the challenge. Their volume is not quite what it used to be. And so getting them to, just like with any type of therapy, it's practice, right? And so retraining those muscles to kind of do what they once did, and sometimes overshooting, because for Parkinson's, what I worked with was specifically getting that voice louder so that they can be at a audible volume when they speak and communicate. And so a lot of times they lose their vocal volume, and people aren't able to hear them. And so that was one of the strategies that I worked on when I was working with my patients that had Parkinson's.
Wow, that is, because I was thinking about that. I even heard that there's speech therapy for those with dementia. I don't know what that involves, but that's interesting, too.
Yes. So that would help. We work with patients that have dementia to help them with those word-finding issues and to give them sort of a fun way of learning or being able to think about these things kind of on the spot, because that's when you are losing it a lot of times. Like people are asking you questions and you're having a hard time. So we work on strategies to get someone to recall these words and the names of things and the information that they struggle with, which is often more recent information, not always, but a lot of times that their short-term memory is more deficient, and they tend to remember things from years and years ago. Mm-hmm. And so we're working with them on those things, naming familiar objects and just getting their abilities close to what they were.
That science just amazes me. That's amazing. Of course, people who have strokes go for therapy, speech therapy. That's really, like I said before, and I don't mean to sound redundant, but speech therapy just covers such a wide area of services that people need, and it's really, I don't know, maybe I'm nerdy or something. I really do. I find it extremely interesting. I'd like to know, how was your experience going to Ghana and Haiti and helping those children? That had to be interesting and very rewarding.
It really was. So when I went to Ghana, that was while I was in school, and we went with Kate Crowley, who was one of our professors, and she was amazing. It was an amazing trip. We got full hands-on experience working with children who had different diagnoses, many of which we did not know. We just gave them strategies and picture cards with visuals to help the parents when they're in the home setting, and so that their child could communicate different things to them, just a few items of necessity. And so this, parents, moms were traveling for hours, because this was the only speech therapist in the whole entire country. So when he provided the service, the parents would come for, I remember one parent was like 11 hours to travel to get to see him just for, a couple of, a short amount of time in comparison to the travel time. But we helped him because he was only one man. And so us students worked with the children who came to get some assistance. And we provided the parents with the strategies on what they could do at home to help expand their child's language. Now, while we may not have gotten them to speak in that moment, we taught them to, put the signs up, and then your child is to gesture to that sign, and that will help them to communicate what it is that they want. And so that is one of the first steps, right? When your little one is small, they might, shake their head yes or no, or point to something that they want that's really up high and they can't say the name. And so that was one of the things that we were really helping those families to get that early stage step of communication in, with the expectations that it would grow as it moved on. And, they seemed like it was the most beneficial thing for them, because moms and dads, they just really want to hear their child talk. They want, their child, if they're not smiling, to smile, right? Those are some of the small moments. And so, it was really a monumental experience, because you really got to see, by the time their child left, they were able to do that little bit of the little technique that we showed them, and the parents were so grateful. In Haiti, it was much the same thing. We worked with orphanages to help them with those children with special needs who had communication difficulties. And we were able to, help them as well with the same similar strategies of using pictures to communicate. And we had a translator that helped us, and we created cards that were in Patois for them, and in Creole for them, and they had the pictures of the items that they needed as well that were important for them. And those that were able to communicate verbally, we worked on helping them to say more, as in stretch out their one-word responses so that they could say a little bit more and really become an effective communicator.
Oh, that is wonderful. We need more Ebonys. We need more Ebonys in the world. I so enjoyed talking to you, Ebony. Tell us about your business, your practice. I know you're in Hillside, New Jersey. Yay, New Jersey. Yes. So if somebody wanted to contact you, do they need a doctor's order? Can they just, how do people connect with you or contact you for a service?
Yes, so you can find me on the internet at www.primespeechsolutions.com. You can call. My number is 908-899-3399. And you can find me on Instagram at Prime Speech. You do not, if you're going through insurance, you may need a referral from your doctor, but you can also call, and we still work with people who don't go through insurance. And how the process works is you call, we discuss your concerns, and we get you on the schedule to see how we can help your child and how we can help build that communication.
Oh, excellent. That is great. So they could just go on your website and connect with you, and also on Instagram.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad that I connected with you, and I'm so grateful for work that you do to help people, and I'm glad we had our chat today. Excuse me, I'm going to swallow instead of cough. You are.
Yes, please.
You're welcome. But sometimes I can't help it. The cough comes out. Can't always swallow it back, but I'm getting better. So hopefully improve. Folks, the reason why I share stories with you is because I like to make this personal, and I'm an open book. But I want to thank you, Ebony Turner-Bailey, speech pathologist, for coming on today and sharing various topics that are very important for people. And folks, even if you don't live in New Jersey, if you have a child that you're concerned with, ask your doctor, ask your pediatrician if you have a child for referral in your area. If you or someone is taking care of someone with dementia, Parkinson's, or you have a chronic cough, speak to your primary care doctor. I always say, speak to your doctor and get referrals in your area. And all the information about Ebony Turner-Bailey will be in the blog that Jeannie White writes. Jeannie White is the station manager, produces the show. And Lillian Caldwell is CEO of Passion World Talk Radio Network. It makes this all possible. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you for listening and sharing. Please share the show to help other people. And also, I want to tell you that Chatting with Betsy is for free. So please subscribe if you don't already do so, because I have a lot of guests lined up, a lot of great guests. And I'm on Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeart, to name a few. And as I always say, you could follow me on Facebook, Betsy Wurzel, Wrzel. And I just love to give out resources. You know, I'm very passionate about this. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright, because we need it now more than ever before. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy and Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Till we chat again, be safe, everyone. Bye-bye now.